Hey Burners, we're here with Greg, the genius behind Switch Nutrition. Now, this guy here is taking Australia by storm. I heard someone in a pharmacy, actually a pharmacist, say Berberine is a natural form of Ozempic, which I just was like, what? You can say that?
You can't really.
You can't really?
No.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what he could be talking about there, because obviously that will get people's attention.
Mechanistically, he's got some valid, statement there, because what berberine does is it works on GLP-1 as an agonist. So, in other words, it affects that GLP-1.
And is that what Ozempic does?
That's what Ozempic does. So, semaglutide or that type of drug works on that pathway. But I want to temper people's expectations. Supplements are not drugs. They're not as concentrated. This is not injectable like a peptide, like GLP-1 or semaglutide. So, it is going to have work mechanistically on the same pathway. It increases AMPK in the cells, which I'll talk about in a minute, and it improves GLP-1. It also has a insulin sensitizing effect, so some would argue that berberine's like nature's metformin too. But again, I think it's going a bit far to say that these supplements are the same as a drug.
Equivalent.
They're not the equivalent of that. They work on the same mechanisms.
But you get drugs, you get side effects.
You do. And with metformin as an example, 75% of people have gastric disturbances that are associated with the drug, whereas it's down to around 10 to 15% with berberine. So it's much, much lower in any incidences of gut distress. I think it's close to 80% of people have headaches with metformin. That's again down around 10, 15% with berberine. So some of the supplements for certain people will get some side effects still, even in the supplement.
Because it's working on the same pathways.
Exactly, and it is a potent supplement, berberine. It comes from Berberis aristata, which is the herb, but it's a concentrated 97% berberine, which is what we're looking for. This particular...
In Switch.
And this particular one also has the chromium in there too, the chromium picolinate.
Perfect.
Chromium helps with blood sugar regulation, again, improving insulin sensitivity, allowing your body to have less cravings, I suppose. But yes, talking about that GLP-1 pathway, that has a suppression on hunger. So the way that semaglutide or Ozempic works is to suppress one's hunger. The problem with Ozempic is that 2/3 of the weight loss is muscle and 1/3 of the weight loss is fat. And in a normal circumstance, when you control hunger through natural measures like berberine and fiber or something along increased protein intake in your diet, those sorts of methods, you will actually find that you lose 2/3 fat, 1/3 muscle. You're still going to lose some muscle if you're in a calorie deficit, unless, of course, you're using creatine and increasing your protein intake and doing resistance training and maybe taking HMB. Those sorts of supplements can preserve lean muscle tissue and minimize the amount of muscle loss when you're in a calorie deficit.
If you have any questions about those, please write a comment to this video.
Let us know, I'll help you out there. But all of those supplements can ameliorate the muscle loss. And again, arguably anyone taking Ozempic, if they were to use creatine, increased protein diet, resistance training and HMB, they would reduce some of their muscle loss. But the studies that we've seen where they do the same thing they've done every day and just take the drug, they lose 2/3 of their weight from muscle. Not good.
Just unethical, because as soon as they stop using the drug, turn back to normal eating, they've got less muscle to burn fat, they're going to put it on twice as fast.
Absolutely, and that's the problem. That drug is now a lifetime drug because you've lost mechanistically the muscle mass that was going to burn fat for fuel. So berberine, whilst it works on a similar pathway, it's not as aggressive, and it's much easier to maintain lean muscle mass and also control the cravings and hunger at the same time. So supplementally, when we talk about weight loss, I think we should talk about it as a basis of calories in, calories out. So if you can get your calories coming in lower than what's going out, then you'll burn fat. And you can get it out by using fat burners like thermal switch, etc. That'll increase your metabolic rate. But to reduce your calorie coming in is the hardest part. Keeping people comfortable in a calorie deficit is the trick, Paulie.
And that's what Ozempic does,
yes.
And that's what berberine does?
Berberine does that. So berberine helps to control calorie intake by maintaining a control over that desire to overeat. Other supplements that work on this way, ketones work to suppress ghrelin, so ketone supplements or a ketogenic diet will control hunger and cravings. Chromium, which is in the berberine plus, will help. And fiber. And the last one would be a higher protein diet. So a protein-rich diet, a fiber-rich diet should be where you start to control cravings. Add in micronutrients like Vitality Switch will keep your cells satiated so there's less cravings. And then you can start to come into your berberines, your ketones, your fiber. All those things can really layer into that hunger control and keeping you comfortable in a calorie deficit. So if you're serious about weight management, weight loss, you want it to be more body fat than anything, and you're really having difficulty with cravings, this is where you start to look.
Berberine. So there you go, guys. A pharmacist in a pharmacy said it was a natural form of
Ozempic, yeah.
but also helps like metformin in the same sort of mechanism, especially with the chromium in there too.
Yep.
There's no doubt why it's one of the best-selling supplements, and it's got this category. This Berberine is growing so fast in popularity at the moment. There you go. Switch has the highest quality form of Berberine on the market. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Welcome.